Today, our session is focused on new workplace sustainability leadership frameworks. We're going to have a roundtable discussion focused on new ways of leading that start with the belief that people are creative, they're collaborative, and they're full of potential.
You can have two trustworthy people working together and no trust between them. I'd love to hear from you. How is that happening? How is that possible? Under what circumstances can you have this happen, where you've got trustworthy people working together, but still no trust? Trish said lack of communication, sharing, misinterpreted actions. Boy, that's for sure. And noted prior incident has now created mistrust. Yeah, we call that a trust tax, where because the trust is somebody's experienced something where trust has been lost, it tends to impact the speed at which we can do work and the costs associated with everything that we're doing. I want you to discuss together and contrast the difference between motivation and inspiration.
I think that for our group, I think ultimately we decided on it depends on the personality of the individual. So for Ann and I, we saw a motivation, as Ann called it, moving. So she said, when I hear motivation, I think moving. So external forces, responses to the market, responses to your leadership, versus the inspiration is more like the internal, like I am inspiring myself to do X. When we talked about which one was more sustainable, we said it depends on the individual. So some people may be able to inspire themselves, but they don't have the motivation to perform the task.
Started with sort of describing the difference as almost a Venn diagram with overlap, but some distinctions. And to me, one of the distinctions about inspiration is it's very heart-driven. Motivation can be very head-driven. And they overlap. This is not to say it's mutually exclusive. And my colleague from I4CP gave a great example. Motivation might be to lose 5 pounds, but inspiration might be to live long enough to see your grandchildren. I thought that was a great distinction to make.
And a powerful one, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of our participants mentioned the notion that inspiration is very much in an idea. However, motivation speaks to actually putting it into action. So you can be inspired, but once you are motivated, you're much more likely to make it happen. So to move away from that, a couple of other distinctions, we felt that inspiration was, if you had to look at the two, it was probably more sustainable because it focuses on leadership providing a vision that the person can then connect with, which is more sustainable. Motivation tends to require continual rewards or feedback loop, as it were, to continue to maintain it. So one is more transactional, the other one tends to be much more implicit and internally focused and gendered.
We're talking about the idea of inspiration being a whole nother gear, a whole nother level. And the data on this is from Bain. They show that employees who are inspired are 56% more productive than engaged employees and 125% more productive than really satisfied employees. This is a whole different ball of wax compared to what we're historically and structurally used to as organizations. The last piece I'll close with to wrap up the control piece. Sometimes people look at this and say, well, yeah, trust inspire sounds nice, but maybe that's soft. Let me put it this way. As a trust-inspired leader, you can be authoritative without being authoritarian. You can be demanding without being demeaning. You can, or overbearing. You can be strong without being forceful. You can be decisive without being autocratic. You can be compelling without being compulsory. You can be in charge and have control without being controlling. And again, my final argument is you can actually have more control in this environment. My guess is if you worked with a leader like this before, they have more influence, more impact on the work that you do, how you do it than anything else. Any other carrot and stick lever could be tried.